Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is Impressions in Motion, episode number 7, I believe. And as usual, I'm Chris, and I'm joined today by my good friend and co-host, Curtis. Please say hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris is doing something, a little foul before the episode started and just kind of threw me off. So, yeah, hello. Welcome to the podcast again. I know I'm talking about, off-air material, but I feel like you need to know.
Good job. It's not like people don't fart. Why'd you have to bring that up?
It has to be known, man. People need to know what kind of, weird stuff you're up to.
Weird stuff? That's weird. Is it passing wind?
Well, talking to the right kind of person, yeah. Some people believe that you shouldn't pass wind. Some people believe it's uncouth and just. Some people say that they don't pass wind at all, which is obviously bull, but still, in some.
Yeah, but
in the mind
Yeah, go on. I live alone. I can pass wind whenever I please.
You don't know who's standing outside your window looking and, judging you.
I live on the 3rd floor. No one's outside my window.
Window washer man. How about that? Or some person trying to rub your ass.
At 10:30 at night.
Mate, you'll be surprised the kind of people you might find outside your window. Actually, it might not even be a person. It might be an animal.
I have never seen anyone directly outside my window.
Because you're not.
How are they going to get up to? Actually, no. I lie. There was a man who climbed up to my window on a ladder a few weeks ago. I think he was fixing some guttering or some wiring or something. That's the only guy I've ever seen outside my actual window. And I don't think he actually looked in.
Who's to say they're not there when you're not looking?
This is wildly off topic.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful start to the episode. Hello, everybody.
Yeah, this is, I think, officially the first episode in 2018. So, Happy New Year, everybody.
I hope you had a good Christmas and New Year's.
Perhaps, since it's a new year, maybe we should talk a little about what we are looking forward to this year, rather than get into films straight away. Change it up a bit.
Oh, change. I'm afraid of change.
Now, this podcast is all about change,
I don't remember signing up for that.
Impressions in Motion, it's in the name. We just wing it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So, tell me, Curtis, is there any plans you have for 2018? Anything you're looking forward to the most? And, anything you've got on the horizon that you really can't wait to do?
In life, before I get into the whole film thing, quite simple. Probably go about and volunteer at the Children's Media Conference again. Been going for the last few years. Great event. Nice to meet some, new volunteers and potential partners in crime when it comes to, working on creative projects, but also, meeting people from the industry and stuff like that. Jack White is coming back, doing a tour, and I really want to see him live again. So I'm hoping that might happen. And I'm very inspired this year just to go out and watch more films than ever before. Try to catch up on some old TV and just work on some of my own projects, really. Illustration, animation wise, and that kind of stuff. I'll save the film but for a second later on. But yeah, you can do what's your stuff? What's your stuff?
I'm no good. You. No, it sounds interesting. You've got some nice plans ready for the year. For me, not too much really. I'm just taking it how it comes, but I am looking forward to the expo because we're going to be doing the whole thing for the first time in a long time.
Oh my gosh.
So that'll be a good session. And expo's always around near my birthday, so I've booked a nice 2 weeks off work. So I'm just looking forward to those 2 weeks especially.
Yeah, don't expect a present.
It's alright. I don't expect a present. I never have.
Alright, cool. Sorry, continue.
But no, it's your birthday before mine, and don't expect a present either.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Winter Olympics next month. I always like to watch the Olympics. I don't know if you're really into the Olympics much.
Fluctuates from year to year. Well, not year to year, but major event to major event. When I probably get into it, I love it. Just watching the skills of people, especially not only from your own country, from other countries as well. Just do some of their stuff that looks almost superhuman. Insanity, love it. But then there's sometimes I'm not so into it. But when I'm into it, I like it. So I'll give it a watch near the opening period, and if it starts to get good, you'll see me gripped. I might say something on Twitter like, "Yeah, man."
Well, I don't use Twitter anymore, but cool. But yeah, man, I really love the Olympics. I think I probably prefer the Summer Olympics a bit more to the winter ones, but the winter ones had some good moments. I remember last Winter Olympics would have been 2014. I remember watching the figure skating in that, and man, some of those moves, insanity. I hadn't really watched it too much before then, but during the Winter Olympics, I think beforehand, 2014, it was in Russia.
Yeah.
And I liked the Olympics. I kind of take a glance at the schedule and think, oh yeah, I'd like to watch this, like to watch that. But I kind of, don't plan my day around it. If I happen to be in front of the TV or in not doing too much, I'll flick it on and catch a few games or a few events here and there.
Yeah.
And on this day, it happened to be figure skating, and it was like I think the final of the free skate. But basically, this was the women's figure skating, and they have a kind of a section of time to do a performance to a piece of music. And there was this Japanese figure skater. She's now retired, I think. She's called Mao Asada.
Yeah.
And she did a performance to a piece by Sergei Rachmaninoff,
who
is a really wonderful composer. And the piece she performed to was his second piano concerto. And when it comes to classical music, I like classical music. I really do. But I think it's one of those kind of genres, it's very kind of historical. There's very established artists, obviously everyone knows Mozart and Beethoven and so on, but you don't really necessarily know the names of their compositions and pieces. But this piece by Rachmaninoff, this is one piece that I really have loved for a very long time, and I do know from the very first note. And when it kicked in, I was like, oh my god, this is Rachmaninoff. And it just kind of really got my attention straight away and just entranced me. And her performance was really good. I think she actually came second in the free skate then. So yeah, I just remember that from the Winter Olympics, which was really good. But of course, we had the Summer Olympics. I think was it 2 years ago now? Yeah, it's 2018. Got really into that. Was really into the judo, the taekwondo, bit of badminton, and especially table tennis. I love table tennis.
Oh yeah, you in that ping pong.
Yeah, I think I'm not really into too many sports, but ping pong is one I've always kind of closely followed, especially since I watched that film, Japanese film from 2002 called Ping Pong. I remember going on about that a lot in college.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, I'm sure you do. They're repressed memories. But yeah, I think that kind of sparked my interest in it. And the Olympics, the table tennis, especially the British team, they put in some work, man. Their performances were really great. They didn't really get very far, but especially in the team event against France, their match went on for almost 4 hours. It was epic. I was up till like 3 a.m. watching that, and the whole time I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't leave to go to the toilet or anything. I had to watch what happened, and every single match, every single game came down to the wire because it's best out of 5, so it's first to 3 wins. And Britain would win one, France would win one, Britain would win one, France would win one, and then it came down to the wire where the next person, the next winner, won, and it was a singles match. And for the British team, it was Sam Walker, who was the lowest ranked member on the British team, but he's still very good. I think he's quite young. He's actually 21 or 22-ish. But he put in some work, and it looked like he might lose. I think he was 5 or 6 points down, and the opponent was 1 point away from winning. But Sam Walker, he managed to bring it back. He won like 5 or 6 points in a row and won. And yeah, that was just a very exhilarating moment.
Damn.
It was good. For that moment, I thought, table tennis, that's a career for me. I'm going to become a professional. I'm inspired. But that didn't work. But I still
was going to say what happened to
this
you,
day.
Yeah. I was looking forward. That would have been an amazing change of events.
That's what the Olympics does to you, though. You watch all these amazing people. You think, oh my god, I want to do that. But I think for many of these sports, you really need to start practicing from a very young age. And I mean, many of the professional players are my age now, although some of them are in their actual 40s and beyond. It's really astounding, the movements and the skills they still have. But yeah, it's a bit late for me, I think, unfortunately. But you know, I love the sport and I still follow it. So yeah, table tennis is a really good time.
Nice.
But yeah, that's my kind of Olympic tangent there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the Olympics and just, you know, seeing what this year has in store.
Oh.
So let's transition into the old Academy Awards.
Oh.
So what do you think about the Oscars? Do you care?
All right. So here's the thing. Like, obviously, I'm a fan of films, but you know, until we went to, you know, college and then, you know, started learning about it, I didn't have a proper appreciation for it like I do now. My first Oscars I watched, I think, was back in 2009, so it was the 2008 one, and I believe that was the year that Hugh Jackman was the host. And I'm not sure if that was the year. I think it was either that year or the year after where I stayed up to watch the entire thing. But I saw the majority of that one. But at the time, I'd never really watched many of the Oscar films out. So I've probably watched the Oscars like maybe 2 times through, and that was when I was proper committed to it. I think that one other time, I think both times were, well, actually no, once was at uni, and then once was either not last year, I think the year before. But anyway, to cut the whole tangent of what I'm going on about short, the Oscars I thought had meaning to me a few years ago, but after a while I was just like, I don't care. Quite simply, like, for those who win them, I am like happy for them, but you know, it's just a fancy award to say that, you know, you did a good job, but doesn't necessarily, like, you know, take away from other films during the same period that, like, you know, didn't get nominated or didn't win. Plus, with some of the nominations that's come up in recent years, I'm just like, I've become, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Desensitized and just a little jaded on some of these events because it's, you know, the same kind of thing over and over with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little minor thing on it. How about you?
Yeah, I'm very much on the same page as you. I don't think I've ever watched the Oscars all the way through. I mean, it goes on for a long time and they really drag it out, and you know, I just never really been too into it. But, you know, if I saw that a film had been Oscar nominated or had won Oscars, I'd think, oh, straight away, this is a film worth looking at. But I've just become kind of very disenfranchised with the whole thing. And just, yeah, it's just the same sort of thing every year. It's just the kind of limited bunch of films are nominated for all these awards. But there's so many other films that just go by unmentioned, unnoticed, and of course the Oscars, it's an American thing deep down. You know, there's a lot of British films that do get nominated and other English language films, you know, from Canada or wherever. But for me, I like a lot of foreign film, and it just isn't very represented at the Oscars. So already that's kind of lost my interest a bit. For some people, I get that they might, you know, be interested in see what goes to where and who gets what. But at the end of the day, like you said, it just doesn't really mean anything. It just means that these small section of people, they did do a good job, and like you say, I'm very happy for them and very happy that they get awards. But I just think there's so much more that goes by unnoticed, and for the Oscars to be the big, you know, kind of award ceremony, the highlight of, you know, film awards, for how big it is, I don't think it actually represents that big of the industry, well, that big of a portion anyway. So yeah, that's my whole kind of thoughts on it. I probably won't be watching it this year. I don't think I've watched it in many years, actually. I'll look at the results and I'll think, alright. And that'll be it, really.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. Like, that's what I did, I think, last year. Because the year before that I watched it, and I think the year before that I watched it with my mate as well, because he likes films, but, you know, probably isn't as into it as me and you are. You know my mate Craig.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just because I think everybody was... I think that was the year that Ellen hosted the Oscars, and I know a lot of people like poo-pooed on that because, oh yeah, Ellen, she's just like she has her own TV show, and she was taking selfies with random people and handing out pizza and stuff. But I thought that added a little bit more liveliness to the event, because this thing goes on for like 4 to 5 hours if you're including all the advertising and stuff like that. So the fact that they added a little bit more levity and I guess you'd count it as a more this generation kind of approach to it, that helped. And there were some really good sort of vocal performances that year as well. I remember that one because I think that was the same year that Lady Gaga did a performance on there. I think it was a song from maybe was it The Sound of Music, I think. And some people what's the word I'm looking for, disregard Lady Gaga because of her type of music and think that she can't sing, but that woman has some bloody pipes in her. She was damn good. So I might have a quick peeky at this year's Oscars, provided I can get a good look at it, because Jimmy Kimmel's on there and I do like him as a host. He's pretty fun. But yeah, when I saw the nominations, there was a bit of surprise, but only a bit. I think maybe 15 to 20%. The rest of it was just this seems like the same kind of thing I've seen for years. Not much variation. I couldn't help but sigh a little bit, and it's just I could have seen this a mile away. And while I haven't seen all of these films yet, mainly because they're annoying UK releases, and some of them are just sort of swept under the radar, there were just a few that I was just surprised just didn't even get nominations at all. So I'm just what is going on?
Yeah, I think looking at the animated category killed me a bit, just to see things like Your Name and A Silent Voice are completely disregarded. And I think Your Name may have actually been able to qualify for last year's rather than this year's, but again, it wasn't nominated. So
yeah,
because I kind of
yeah, sorry.
No, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, because when I looked up the film's release date, it said it was 2016. Did it say? Was it 2016 or 2017 when it's with the film's original release in Japan?
Well, I think 2016 in Japan, but for the Oscars, these films, to qualify, they need to have a limited run in the US. And I'm pretty sure Your Name did have that to qualify. Yeah,
because my uncle in Canada, he saw it as well, and he was telling me about it back in the summer or something. And he was telling me about how great it was. So I was just okay, so it clearly got a release over there, but I guess
it even got a release here as well. It was out here for a while. I remember Mark Commode talked about it when it was out, and that's going back a bit.
Oh man, I hate these cinemas, man. So unfairly, is it biased in terms of the places that they show these things, or just not showing them at all?
That's the thing. I mean, it's not only, a cinema's not kind of just a place to exhibit, art in film form, but it's all about profits. And they have to show what will make them money and what will draw the most audiences. And obviously, these kind of films like Your Name, although it's massively popular, I think it's actually the most successful animated film in Japan of all time now. It's outside of Japan. Well, outside of Asia, at least, it's probably only going to be shown, in major cities and stuff. But still, it's had massive success, and just to see it kind of not represented at all at any of the Academy Awards is just a shame, really.
Yeah.
But I think out of all the categories, or at least it's one of the categories, the animated category that is, it's just kind of, it seems more like a popularity contest than a real award for, art.
Yeah,
but that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, that's fair. Just to bounce off of you in the animated category, I saw it and I'm like, The Boss Baby, are you serious? That's
The
trash.
Boss Baby.
And Ferdinand, I didn't watch it, but I hate to be one of those sort of what's the word I'm looking for, prejudgmental kind of people that when you see an animated film, you can sort of just look from the trailers. You sort of judge it on the quality of how it's made, what the characters look like in terms of how they move, and just the overall level of detail. And I know that we're spoiled with Disney, Pixar, and the occasional work from DreamWorks, and sometimes, very rarely, Illumination Studios, where they make some really good looking stuff. So when you don't have something on that same level of quality, you sort of look at it and just like, it doesn't look as good as those other films. I'm gonna give it a pass. But it's also just the story content, and some of these films look so awful, generic, cheesy, lazy. And I saw Third, and I'm like, no. The only film that looks like it, well, the thing is, The Breadwinner I've never seen, and Loving Vincent, never heard of it. So
You never heard of Loving Vincent?
No.
That was out in the cinema near me for quite some time. I think it's actually supposed to be quite good.
Oh man, that must have swept under the radar for me, man. I look at that list and I'm like, Coco, I can understand. I saw that and I actually quite liked it. Not like, was it top tier Pixar material, but this is like, for me, one of their better films in recent times, and I'm still just surprised that Lego Batman got no love at all. There was a lot of love for Lego Batman. And
well, even the Lego movie, never got nominated, did it?
So I was just thinking, these guys really don't like Lego. The whole 3D / stop motion approach to Lego, they just aren't fans. And I'm like, why? Have you seen how much intricacy goes into those films?
Why?
And this is, as a person who's an animator, who's done obviously you've done stop motion with me, but doing that at uni as well, and knowing about the meticulous level of detail that goes into that, and doing it in 3D and recreating that same style, madness. It's insulting. But never mind. It's maybe these films had more emotional resonance. Not The Boss Baby. That film was stupid. But
have you seen The Boss Baby?
I couldn't bring myself to watch it, to be fair.
See, I've seen The Boss Baby. I am a Boss Baby viewer.
Oh.
And I think the film is not awful. It's a watchable kids film, and but it's not an Oscar worthy film. I mean, there's nothing particularly amazing about it. It's just a fine watch, and that's it. You watch it, and then you forget about it, pretty much. But, just goes to show, really, the Oscars, you can't really take it that seriously, so...
Yeah. I just want to go through some of these other categories, just through the list, so...
Yeah, sure.
Follow me, if you will, into this, rabbit hole. Okay, so the Best Picture nominees, of these, what do you like? What do you dislike? Well, what do you want to win? What do you think will win? The options, I don't know if you have it on your screen, but I do, so I'll just list them.
All right, I've got it up.
All right, so yeah. Wait, did you want me to list it for the listeners, or do we just say which ones?
No, we can do, in case anyone's listening to this 5 years down the line.
Yeah. All right. So, with the Best Picture nominations, you got Call Me by Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
That's what is it? That film a while ago with what's her name? Monique Push, based on.
Oh, you mean
story.
That Precious film?
Oh yeah, that's it. Precious, based on, what is it called?
Based on something Sapphire, I think.
Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire. That was it. Every time that film won an award, they would read that out, and it just did not roll off the tongue at all. But
yeah, and that's the one I think was it. Even though in the context of the film, you understand why, but. That title was so annoying to say. I'd just be like, Three Billboards, that's all. No more.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I've only seen about maybe, I think, half of the films on this list. Seen Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, and Three Billboards. I still haven't seen The Post yet. I'm probably going to watch that on Saturday. And since The Shape of Water, Phantom Thread, and Lady Bird, and I think Call Me by Your Name hasn't come out over here yet officially, so yeah, I ain't seen none of those.
Well, I've only seen Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, and The Shape of Water. I did keep meaning to go see The Darkest Hour, but I haven't been to the cinema in ages. But I will try and fit that in somewhere. I don't think Phantom Thread's being shown near me, or The Post. But I mean, as with anybody, you want the film you liked the best to win.
Yeah.
So I would like Lady Bird to win.
Oh,
But it's not really fair for me to say that because I haven't seen the whole list.
yeah,
But I think Lady Bird was a really good film, and if it does win, it's a deserving film. What about
yeah.
you?
For me, out of this list, I want Three Billboards to win. I saw that today actually, and it was one of those sort of films that I saw the trailer for. I think maybe twice, and I was just not very enticed by it. I mean, I was saying to myself, I'll probably watch it because I like the all the main three actors involved. Frances McDermott, Woody Harrelson, and Sam Rockwell. But it wasn't until after like the film had come out in America, and there was lots of people that I follow online that started talking about it, and obviously the recent Oscar buzz. I was like, you know what? Let me have a look at it. I'm like, this film was quite good. I enjoyed it far more than I expected. Just a nice balance between drama and was it humor and stuff, and yeah, really good stuff. I haven't seen The Shape of Water yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. Besides, for a few people who say they don't get the film, I was just like, okay. But yeah,
I'm one of those people.
ooh,
You see, I really love Guillermo del Toro. I think Pan's Labyrinth is brilliant.
yeah,
I was a bit ambivalent towards Pacific Rim, and The Shape of Water. I just think it didn't live up to the hype. I thought it was a good film,
yeah,
a very watchable film, and it had some really magical moments.
ooh,
But I think the overall kind of feel of the film for me, and just the whole plot and the whole characterization, it just didn't work for me. I think some of the characters were very flat, and yeah, it's just one of those films. Sometimes you happen on a film, it's very critically praised and it gets all these awards, but you watch it and you just don't see it. And for me, The Shape of Water is one of those films. I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what you think of it when you get around to seeing it. It just didn't wow me like I thought it would.
okay. Well, I'm curious. I mean, obviously it's Del Toro, so I'm curious regardless. I'm one of the few people that like Crimson Peak, but I saw that film trailer and I was like, oh, this film looks interesting. But then I saw Michael Shannon and I'm like, yep, I'm in. Like,
You see, I really love Michael Shannon, and I was looking forward to him as well. But his character's it was just a bit flat for me.
oh
But
no,
he puts in the work. I mean, it's more a problem with the writing and the characterization than his performance. His performance is good.
Well, if his performance is good, then that's all I'll need because if I ever met that guy, whew, I'd be
But
like,
saying that about Michael Shannon, you haven't seen. Oh gosh, what was the title of that film?
please don't say 99 Homes.
Have you seen 99 Homes?
No, I still haven't seen it. It's still on my watch list.
So you've not seen 99 Homes for a start, but no, I'm thinking of that film from last year. What's it called? The one by Tom Ford, Nocturnal Animals.
Oh right, yeah. That you know what? Funnily enough, that film had a release. I think was it maybe what point of the year was it? It's not November or something, but it never came out in like the cinema, like over here. And I don't know. It just sort of disappeared off the face of the planet. And I said, okay. Well, before the before the Oscars of last year, I was like, I was gonna watch it, but I forgot all about it. So now I'm just like, oh yeah, crap. You've brought it up now. Like, oh yeah, I forgot all
You
about
should
that
check
film.
it out. That's one of my favorite films from last year. It's really good. I really liked it. And obviously Jake Gyllenhaal, he's always very watchable.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
But going back to that Three Billboards film though, that is actually out near me, even in my 2-screen cinema down the road, which is very tiny. They actually have I think a 11:30 showing, just one, all week. so maybe I'll try and get to see that if you say it's good.
Oh yeah, I really liked it. I got the last showing in the cinema today. It was at 150. After that, I think they've since downsizing, and like I think a few other films are showing up tomorrow. It's no good.
Yeah, I'll try and catch that then. I want to go see Early Man as well. I think that's out tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's the other one I want to go back and check out. Oh, one other thing I want to mention before we jump out of the Best Picture category, Darkest Hour. That film is good, but I don't think it's Best Picture worthy. As an overall film, I feel like, if you've seen certain biopics or just seen a number of biopics, you feel like it's a bit by the numbers. It has a certain how does one phrase it, like a certain A, B, and C about the story. It's an interesting learning experience. Obviously, some of it's like, is it changed for like, the sake of dramatization and all that kind of stuff. But, I think it's the performances that elevate the film. Like, really like Lily James. Was it Ben Mendelsohn? He was good. But, like, it's Gary Oldman's film. He was damn good. He was damn good. So I'm like, if you ever had a doubt about, like, is it the skills of Oldman, like, just, they are, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, unfounded. You can sweep those under the carpet. He's brilliant, but I feel like it's his performance that's the best element of that film, and it's just I'd take that one out and replace it with something else. I don't know, maybe was it I, Tonya, because everyone keeps going on about how good that film is, but even I don't know how good that film is, so I wouldn't know whether you could switch that one out. But I'd replace The Darkest Hour with something else.
I liked I, Tonya, and personally I would put it in over Get Out. I know a lot of people love Get Out, and I think you did as well.
Yeah.
For me, I thought, much like you said about Darkest Hour, it's very watchable, it's very gripping, but I just don't think it's one of the best pictures of the year.
Yeah, so. I'd say that when I saw the nomination, I'm like, I'm happy for the film, but I'm not sure if it would, qualify. And I'm not saying that because, like, oh yeah, I don't want, like, films of a black nature not to be, like, recognized. It's just that sometimes when you see certain films, that they have, like, Oscar quality to them. And while I enjoyed Get Out a great deal, like, I don't know if it's, like, Oscar worthy. And plus, I've only seen the film once, and I really enjoyed it at the time, but as the year went on, it sort of, like, I wouldn't say faded from memory because it was always at the back of my mind, but it was just like, I don't know. Just, I didn't have that same wow factor, like, as it, later on in the year. Like, how, sometimes when you watch a film, even after you saw it, like, how many months ago, it still has that same, resonance.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay. So with leading actor, like, the best male role, like, leading actor, I haven't seen, like, again, Phantom Thread or, like, Call Me By Your Name. And I think, like, is it Daniel Kaluuya? Like, I'm bad with names, ladies and gentlemen. I thought he was good in the film, but to be, like, best actor, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd give it to Oldman, and while that, like, while voting for Gary Oldman seems like, just a generic choice, a standard, like, choice for, like, leading performance, like, I thought it was damn good. It was really impressive. It would be really cool if, like, Daniel Day-Lewis would win this, because that would be his third win, and I'd be like, well, there's not many people that's ever done that in their lifetimes, and it'd be a good way for him to retire, but I don't know. I'd go for Oldman in that department. Do you have anything to add to this one?
Not really. I've only seen Get Out, so I can't really comment on it too much, but I think the general consensus is that Gary Oldman kind of already has the award. But, upsets happen, so who knows?
Yeah. With Best Supporting Actress, I haven't seen Mudbound. I didn't even know Mary J. Blige was even in a film, like, recently, so I'm happy for her being nominated. Obviously, I, Tonya, haven't seen Phantom Thread, Lady Bird, or The Shape of Water. Of these people, I'd like to see, I guess, Octavia Spencer get it, just because, like, I'm a big fan of her as an actress, and I don't know how good her performance is in the film, but if she won it, that wouldn't be too bad for me, really.
She's good in the film. When I was watching it, I didn't think, damn, this is an Oscar-worthy performance, but,
yeah.
Who am I to say, really? I think that category is quite wide open from what I've seen. So, we'll have to see. But for me, I'm going to have to give my vote to Lady Bird again.
Nice.
All the performances in that film were really stellar.
Yeah. Oh, I totally skipped over the actress in the leading role.
Yeah, I wondered what he's doing.
Because I was looking out on the website and I'm like, where is it? And I think it's just because I pressed page down instead of the arrow down. It literally just skipped past it. So, obviously, you've got Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand, and Free Billboards, Margot Robbie and I, Tonya, Meryl Streep for the post. That's the one I sort of roll my eyes at, and your girl from Lady Bird, who I'm not gonna say her name again because the last time I got such verbal abuse. So
I was waiting for your pronunciation.
No, I'm not gonna fall into the trap.
Easy.
Not gonna fall into the trap. I'm one of the sort of guys that learns a name via audio. So that's how I learned how to say is it Chiwetel Ejiofor's name. Like his name was just a mess to me for a long time before Doctor Strange came out. And I was like, that's how you say your name. Thank God I have someone to translate. So yeah,
Right, here's some audio for you. Saoirse Ronan.
okay. I'm not gonna say it yet. So
It's Saoirse like inertia. That's what she says in interviews.
Oh, inertia. Ooh, I like that.
Saoirse.
Saoirse.
Yeah, Saoirse.
Okay, so in that of those actresses, again, I haven't seen any of these women in these other roles besides Frances, and she's been an established actress for a long time, and I loved her in this film. She was great. A great emotional range. She's primarily very, unlikable but very likable at the same time. I don't want to go into too many details. It sounds strange, but the thing is, you'd have to see the film to get the context because I don't want to ruin anything about it. But her character has a great deal of emotional range, and when you see her in the film, you understand why she acts like she does, like the drama that she's gone through, in the past and in the present, and she was great, real good. I've heard nothing but great things about I've just no, I'm not gonna say it.
Saoirse Ronan.
I literally forgot again. I've heard nothing but good things about her and Margot Robbie in I, Tonya as well. So yeah, I wouldn't know what's going on with those girlies, but yeah, man, you know.
Yeah, I've seen Margot, Saoirse, and Sally, and for me, I think Margot Robbie was really good in I, Tonya. She's very captivating and she's a really great actress. But for me, it has to be Saoirse Ronan. I just think in every film I've seen her in, she's just really enrapturing. She gives it her all, and it's not to say these other actresses don't, but I'd just put Saoirse a bit above the rest. So I'd like to see her win.
Nice. In terms of the supporting male, 1 second, I need to move this bloody page back down. In terms of
oh, the difficulties here.
Yeah, with the supporting role, I haven't seen the Florida Project, although I've heard many good things about that.
Yeah,
film.
I wanted to see that, but it didn't come anywhere near a cinema near me.
So yeah, you've got William Dafoe for that film, Woody Harrelson for 3 Billboards, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World, and Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards as well. I thought Woody Harrelson was good in 3 Billboards, but not as good as Sam Rockwell. But I think that's just due to the fact that Rockwell's character had a lot more screen time, and Christopher Plummer, I thought he was really good in the film. I've heard some people poo-poo on his performance just because, oh yeah, his work was, I think people think that his work was only good just because he came in and did it in a, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for, suitable manner, considering the fact that he was, just brought in to replace Kevin Spacey and, reshoot all of his scenes in a short space of time. But I thought his performance was pretty damn good. I've not seen Plummer in many films, but this is, one of the most memorable performances I've seen from him. So for me, it'd be out of Rockwell and Plummer. But if Dafoe did get it, that'd be cool. So, yeah. How about you?
Well, out of this list, I've only seen The Shape of Water, and Richard Jenkins was really good in that film, but I can't really comment. I haven't seen the other 4 nominations, so. But I did hear really good things about Willem Dafoe, and it's good to see him up there.
Yeah. All right. So now, since this is starting to get into is it the more after the director department, it's getting into some more obscure departments. So I guess I'll leave it on is it maybe I'll cover the director, and then maybe the last 2 that I'm really interested in is was it the stuff that Baby Driver has been nominated for in the visual effects department. So with the director, you've got Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, sorry. Paul Thomas Anderson for Phantom Thread, and obviously Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water. Now I've only seen 2 out of the 5. Dunkirk, I thought from a visual spectacle standpoint and the way it was put together, really good. But as an overall film, just no. It just didn't resonate with me. And I know some people that like, is it act like this is like Christopher Nolan's like best work ever, and I'm like, no, just not for me. With Jordan Peele, I thought he did a really good job at like presenting Get Out and applying some of those sort of themes and issues and integrating them into the film. I don't know if he could. I don't think he was going to win though, because these are some powerhouse people he's working against, really. Like, and again, I haven't seen like The Shape of Water or Phantom Thread, so I can't say to that. But yeah, Christopher Nolan, if he wins for Dunkirk, I will be disappointed.
Well, I've seen all of these apart from Phantom Thread. I wouldn't be too disappointed if Christopher Nolan won. I think from a technical standpoint, that film is really quite a marvel. And to be the director of all that and to oversee all that is quite a tough and really demanding job. But for me, I would have to give it again to Lady Bird. I mean, I'm quite biased here, and just because I really loved Lady Bird, but this is Greta Gerwig's solo directorial debut, and to come out with such a really just touching and moving and fluently plotted and really wonderfully told film that is just knit together in really marvelous ways. I just think it was very impressive, and yeah, that's why I'd give it to the Lady Bird.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I just need to scroll down here a little bit. Oh, I am such a strange individual. Okay, so with cinematography, actually, this brings up something, because obviously there's been a whole lot of people like talking about how one of my favorite films of last year, Blade Runner 2049, was snubbed. And I was surprised not to find it in at least, contention for like best film of the year. I guess it's just because, I don't know, not many people really liked it or saw it or whatever. Take your pick of like excuses you want to slam on the wall. But for the cinematography, it's in there, and I'm happy about that. Darkest Hour looked good. Dunkirk looked pretty good. From like a visual standpoint, that was one of the strongest elements of the film for me. I hope Blade Runner gets it, but if it doesn't, I might cry, but whatever. What do you think of like the cinematography department?
Yeah, I'm very much on the same page. I mean, I think it's Roger Deakins' time. I mean, he's been nominated for, I think it's something like over 10 Oscars, and he's never won. But I think Blade Runner just looked so stunning. So I would also give it to Blade Runner, but I wouldn't be I wouldn't disagree very much if Dunkirk won. And although I haven't seen it, it's good to see Mudbound on there, because if I am thinking correctly, that is actually a Netflix film.
Oh.
And it's good to see, kind of Netflix represented, and that they haven't been kind of cut out like they were perhaps previously with Beast of No Nation. So.
Oh yeah. Briefly, I just wanted to mention the fact that like Baby Driver is like nominated for both sound edit and sound mixing, which warms my soul, because I rewatched the film like at the start of January, and I'm like, still to this day, this is some of the most impressive mixture of like sound and music and editing, just like crafted together in such a meticulous manner. I mean, Edgar Wright has always been like very what's the word I'm looking for, distinctive in the use of like his direction when it comes to editing and sound, and the way in which he makes all that stuff come together. Even back on Spaced, you can see like the origins of the stuff that he'd implemented in Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and obviously Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, and now this. So I don't know how good like its chances are against like say Blade Runner 2049 and definitely Dunkirk, actually, now that I think about it, because that film had some pretty good sound like material.
Yeah.
But I really hope Baby Driver gets at least like one or two, if not both, just because just thinking about it just makes me so happy.
It does have some stiff competition though with Blade Runner and Dunkirk.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
And with the visual effects one, that's the trickiest one for me. That's the last one I wanted to mention. Blade Runner 2049 looked really good, but so did Guardians as well, in a totally different way, just because of the really vivid color scheme, art direction, and some of the stuff they were able to do with some of the CG looks really good. Star Wars: The Last Jedi looked good, but I wouldn't put it on the same level as the previous two films. And is again, we got another Planet of the Apes film, which I feel is gonna get swept under the carpet once again, which is gonna piss me off because these films have gotten better with each entry, and the technology and War for the Planet of the Apes, regardless of what people thought of the quality of the actual film itself, the visual effects were insane. But I feel like since it's just specific characters as opposed to whole worlds and all this other sort of stuff that they've been able to create in some of these other films, it'll be, what's the word I'm looking for, overlooked. But I really want Planet of the Apes to win. It's like the impossible, but I really want it to do it.
Yeah, it would be really good to see Planet of the Apes win, because the advancements in motion capture and performance capture and just the effects in that film, they have gotten to such a very high standard now. I mean, they've set the bar for every other film to follow, which is not something easily achievable. They've put in so much work there. The whole trilogy has just looked fantastic, but again, it's up against some really tough competition, especially from Blade Runner, I would say, which from a visual standpoint just looks so stunning. So it's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's pretty much most of the stuff that I wanted to cover, unless you have anything you wanted to add.
No, it's just I'm laughing. We say, oh, we don't care about the Oscars, then spend 40 minutes chatting about it.
I know, but what can I say?
I mean, it's interesting though. It is interesting. Although we might not care about the awards, really, what really happens, it does bring some good discussion, with your peers and people about what you do value and what you think is the best. And yeah, so that's a good aspect of it, I guess.
Indeed. So what did you want to talk about now?
Well, actually, I want to bring up something from the previous podcast.
Oh no!
You may recall that one of the podcasts ended with a brief discussion on Dragon Ball Super, and I asked you, so when do you think this is going to end? And you said it could go on for a long time.
Oh god, here we go. I know exactly where this is going now.
But as I'm sure you know, it is ending soon. What's up with that?
Okay, so I've been following this meticulously for a fair amount of time now, and basically, I don't know if you've been aware, but Dragon Ball Super, since its inception, has had a lot of problems with its production. They've had to work to very specific dates, which means the quality of the episodes has never been to the set standard that's come with previous Dragon Ball series. So as the series progressed, especially beyond the first two arcs, which were just retellings of the last two films, they brought on more animation supervisors and directors and just animation people together to help push the episodes along at the brisk pace, but also try to increase the quality. And while even at this current point in the season, the episodes still vary in quality, it's remarkably better than it was when it first started. And if you talk to any Dragon Ball Super fan, and you talk about the episode special, which I think was 113 and 114, some of the finest animation in Dragon Ball ever, period. But the problem is now that they're working on a new Dragon Ball Z, new Dragon Ball film, which I think they said will be coming out, I think, later on this year. And there's also another anime that's coming back for its 50th anniversary that will be taking up the slot that Dragon Ball Super has currently. So I think they said to, basically make sure the quality of the film is at its most and not, be detrimental to the series. They're basically just taking it off the air. Now, I listened to this podcast based on the website Kanzenshu, which is basically just this really great site that, follows most things Dragon Ball. And they were basically, theorizing what this could mean. Whether this is Dragon Ball, currently in its anime form done for good, or if it's, just going on hiatus because of the film, or if it's just a calculated plan to take the anime off the air so that the manga can catch up, so then they'll actually have source material to work from when the series comes back. So if it's just like, some sort of calculated plan to let the anime rest for a little bit, allow the people at Toei Animation to resort themselves out after the film comes out, maybe let the manga catch up so they'll have like stuff to base the show on, and then come back in a more what's the word I'm looking for, consistent and just better status than they were currently, basically. So the tournament, the Universe Survival arc, which is currently airing, will end in March, and I'm going to be gutted because, like, of all the anime that I've been watching, it's the only one I've been watching consistently since I think maybe November, when I binged a whole lot of episodes, got up to date in December, and now I've been watching consistently since. So yeah, it's gonna be weird because after just over around 2.5 years, Dragon Ball is just going away again. It's just like, no. So I'm disappointed, I'm sad, but at the same time, I want to believe that Toei are literally just, trying to put their, new Dragon Ball film in the best state, and hopefully are going to reorganize their animation department so that they can come back in a more consistent and much more balanced way, maybe in 2019 or maybe later than that. But I'm happy to wait if it's coming back, but if it is over, it's a really random place to end Dragon Ball at the moment, because there is some stuff at the series where after this there are so many new and interesting directions they could go. So to end it where it is right now, at the height of its popularity, what it's doing the best in terms of its sales and merchandising that it's done for years, it's absurdly strange. But there is logic behind this, and there also isn't. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the matter.
I'm sure it'll be back in some capacity. I mean, Dragon Ball nowadays is massive. Like, it's a franchise, basically. I mean, there's multiple interpretations of the anime, multiple interpretations of the manga. You have all the video games. There's even been a Hollywood film. As bad as it is.
No, it wasn't.
But I'm just kind of trying to emphasize, it's a franchise, and I don't think it's going to die that easily. So I'm sure we'll be seeing more of Dragon Ball in the future.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to the final part.
Yeah.
Film, as we usually do, although we usually start with it. Now, I think since our last episode was recorded at the end of 2017, we have everything we've watched in 2018 to discuss, which is probably a bit much. So don't feel like you need to talk about everything. And I think probably you have actually seen more than I have thus far.
Yes.
So yes. Why don't you begin?
All right. So I've got like stupid amounts of films that I want to go about and talk about, but I'm going to be very, very brief. Firstly, right near the start of January, I saw The Greatest Showman. And obviously there was a good number of people talking about that they said they liked it, and a number of people that said they just thought the film was kind of pants. But I thought the film was quite good. The story's a little predictable here and there, but the film is saved by the performances of Michelle Williams, Hugh Jackman, Zac Efron, and the soundtrack is quite catchy, very nice. And this is coming from a guy that's not overly fancy, about musicals, but it's quite good. Man vs. Snake was a documentary I watched about it sounds like some budget was it?
Yeah.
One of those sort of films you find on the Sci-Fi Channel was some CGI creature.
Like Anaconda.
Yeah. It's literally a documentary about these guys from was it the 80s that were playing the Snake arcade game, and how they have continued to try and get their record back, and how some other people have ended up beating the record. So there's people that are coming out of retirement just to try and get back to doing it again. So
can you really retire from a video game? It's not a job, is it?
It's weird, but this is if you've seen the documentary The King of Kong, A Fistful of Coins, then this is pretty much like a supplementary piece of material to that. It's like a sort of spin-off, but within the same world, because some of the same characters overlap. It also has some interesting animated sequences in between to help illustrate certain past events. it's quite enjoyable and insightful for fans of the history of like certain video games, especially in the arcade period. The Devil's Double, a film I want from 2011, I've really wanted to see, mainly because it has my man Dominic Cooper in there, and he was damn good. Very surprising film. Good, not great, but really good. Coco, Pixar film. I've been waiting for this film for months. And while I don't think it has the same sort of creativity and originality that came with, Inside Out, I do feel like as an overall film, I enjoyed it a little bit more. The story was really interesting. It had some emotional beats and certain dark elements that I've never seen in a Pixar film before. The soundtrack's quite nice. The song Remember Me will be in your soul after you've watched the film. Darkest Hour, like I said before, good film, but much better because of the Gary Oldman performance. All the Money in the World, quite an impressive film for me, much more interesting than I thought it'd be. Things just get progressively more interesting as the film goes along. Christopher Plummer and was it Michelle Williams, damn good. Best performance I've seen from her forever.
I really like Michelle Williams. She's really good, but you haven't seen Manchester by the Sea, have you?
I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, it's one of the things I never actually brought up last year. I saw it on the plane when I was coming back from Canada, and she was really impressive in that film as well. Everybody in that film was really good.
Yeah. Have you seen a film from a while back called The Station Agent?
I've heard of it, but I never saw it.
It's got Michelle Williams and Peter Dinklage in. It's really good. You should check it out.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Jumanji. I had no intention of watching that bloody sequel, but because of all the hype that the film had gotten, because of the 700 million plus and good reviews, I want to watch it. And while the film is not the worst thing I've ever seen, it just didn't speak to me. It has certain jokes and humor that I guess resonates more with the younger generation. And sometimes you just see The Rock and Kevin Hart just being themselves, more being themselves than is it other sort of comedy films you've seen recently. But Karen Gillan, she was really good in the film, and so was Jack Black. But Karen Gillan, man, she is some kind of hotness. Good gravy. The only other thing I wanted to mention about Jumanji is that one element that they did get really right was the way in which they reference video game material in terms of certain tropes and codes of conventions that were definitely notable in games from the 90s and early 2000s. So that was done pretty well. Pitch Perfect 3, last in the trilogy, not the best way to end the series on, but I do think it was much stronger than the last film in terms of the timing of the humor, and the song selection was excellent. So yeah, while I would prefer this series to just still be the first film as the way to end the series, still pretty good. That Godzilla Monster Planet film that was just released on Netflix, was it last week?
Oh, was that anime film?
I saw that one the other day, and it was good and interesting. There was much more focus on the humans, and there's some interesting stuff to do with the passage of time and the way in which the Earth has changed and some of these other things. But what they do well is to create Godzilla as this sort of force of nature, but they also change up a few elements of the way in which his character works and the overall mythology. When the tension and the action works, it looks really good. I feel like the animation, it still has that annoying 3D animation where it looks like there's frames missing, so it sort of looks like it's a little jerky, but that's the way it's animated, and that's always bothered me. But when it looks good, it's quite good, and it's an interesting start to this trilogy that they're making. The first Naked Gun film,
you saw it?
I saw it the other day. It's been on my watch list for a while, and since it's one of the films that you recommended me watch, I think about maybe 8 years ago now, I thought I'd give it a watch, and it was quite good. There was a lot of interesting elements that I saw in that film that I didn't know were referenced by other films and TV shows. That film is so strange and weird and unnatural. And the last two I have is Rushmore.
Saw Rushmore?
Yeah, I'm literally
Rushmore is a good film.
I'm working my way through Wes Anderson's filmography, because I've only seen from Fantastic Mr. Fox onwards. So was it Fantastic Mr. Fox? I really need to rewatch that again because I only saw it the once in the cinema and really liked it. At this current point in time, Moonrise Kingdom is still my favorite, though Rushmore is a very, very, very close second. Good Gravy, I have never cringed more in a film in my life watching that film, but it was one hell of an experience, and like the performances from everybody involved was just stellar. And
it's so good though. There are so many good scenes. I really love that bit at the dinner party.
oh my god,
I wrote a hit play scene.
yeah,
It's so good.
oh man, and like I see like some of these like quirky elements of Wes Anderson, like in these early films that I've recognized in some of its later films, just in terms of like the way in which like dialogue is handled, the way in which he shoots certain things and camera shots. That's just, I wouldn't say unconventional, but it just feels strange. But then when you know it's him, it all makes sense. Just the awkward timing between certain lines of dialogue and the way in which certain characters look at each other and just sit there for a few seconds and not say anything. It's just like, this is fun, but it's so strange. And it's just the emotional juggling act that film goes through, where it's just, you know, it can be fun at times, it can be emotional at times, it could just be, you know, kind of tense and, you know, kind of scary on occasions. And seeing what these characters, you know, sort of go through and do to each other, it's just like, what the flying shag am I watching? But it was just enjoyable. And Olivia Williams, for some reason, she reminds me a lot of oh no, I've literally just lost the name. What's the lady that plays Cersei Lannister again?
Lena Headey.
Yeah, she really reminds me of her in that film. They just have like, I don't know, a similar sort of.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, but that film really good.
So have you not seen the Royal Tenenbaums then?
No, still got like a.
What about Bottle Rocket?
No, those two still haven't checked out yet.
The Life Aquatic?
No, I told you nothing before. Was it Fantastic Mr. Fox? That was my first Wes Anderson film.
Oh, I think I've seen all of his films apart from the something Limited. What is it called? It begins with D.
I don't know.
The Darjeeling Limited. The Darjeeling Limited. I haven't seen that film, and I haven't actually seen the Fantastic Mr. Fox, but I have seen all the rest.
Oh man, if before you see Isle of Dogs, you should see like Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I keep meaning to. I actually do have it. I own it.
Oh,
So I need to get around to it. But yeah, you're in for a treat. Bottle Rocket and the Royal Tenenbaums, they're both quality films.
nice. And then obviously 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Based on the novel Push by Sam.
Yeah. This film just got dark, tense, scary, violent, but also quite funny, and just had these moments of levity at just the right points in the film. It's quite surprising, and just I found it very engaging. I just really liked the film. It was just like much better than I expected, and I'd recommend it.
I'll have to catch it. I'm gonna probably go see that tomorrow then.
Nice. Man, I need to stop saying that. All right, now that I'm done, Lowell, what's going on with you?
Alright, for me, I'll do the same. I'll just lift off everything I've seen, but I'll only talk about a few of them. I watched The Net, which was my first film of 2018. It's a 2016 film from Kim Ki-duk, who is a South Korean director. He directed one of my favourite films, Spring, Summer, Autumn, Winter and Spring.
I think I've heard you talk about that before.
Yeah, it's really, really a magnificent film. And basically The Net is about a North Korean fisherman who accidentally defects to South Korea when his boat breaks down. And, you know, he goes through interrogation, and they kind of try and force him to integrate into South Korean society, but he wants to go back to the North. And it's really, really well done film. Exactly what you'd expect from Kim Ki-duk. He's quite a very, sometimes controversial filmmaker, but he has a very specific style, and he also did another really fantastic film called Free Iron, which is amazing. I would really recommend it. The Net isn't one of his best, but I really did enjoy it. I saw Bright, that film with Will Smith from Netflix, which was it was alright. I didn't think it was terrible, but again, I probably wouldn't watch it again. I saw Breathe, Andy Serkis's debut, which I chatted about before with Andrew Garfield. That was really good, very touching. Not as good as some of the other films in a similar kind of subgenre, like The Theory of Everything. But I did enjoy it. I saw A Silent Voice, which is an anime film from 2016. I think it may have came out here last year. And this is an adaptation of a manga. I have actually read the manga. I read it as it was publishing, so I kind of have a close affinity with it. I really did enjoy it.
Okay.
And essentially, it's about this young boy who's kind of, he's a bit of a mean kid, and this deaf girl transfers into his school, and he bullies her essentially. And then it kind of cuts to a few years later, and he feels really guilty about it. He tries to repent, and so he kind of meets up with her, and tries to make things right. And it's a very, very emotional film. I felt the manga it dealt with the themes of depression and bullying very well, but at the end it did drag on a little bit for me. And I think this kind of story fits very nicely into the format of a sort of 2-hour film. So in that respect, it's a very solid adaptation. It really does the manga justice, and it just wiped me out. I think it's almost as good as Your Name, and you know how much I love Your Name. And if I'd watched this the year it came out, it would definitely be in my top 10. I really loved A Silent Voice. The next film I saw was Sea Fog. This is another South Korean film. It's about fishermen who are falling on hard times, and they accept this kind of dodgy job to import some immigrants into South Korea, and things go a bit wrong. I kind of had an idea of how the film would be before I watched it, but it completely smashed all my expectations. I did not see where it was going at all. It's very, very surprising. It's not a fantastic film, but it's very shocking, and it's very captivating. It keeps you entranced, enraptured. It's very, very watchable, very good. I saw Our Love Story, which is another South Korean film. This is kind of a romantic film about two girls kind of discovering, one in particular kind of discovering, her sexuality, and kind of opening up to her first true relationship. And I thought it was a really terrific film. It has this sort of kind of very strong ambience, it's very slow and pensive and quiet, and it focuses very tenderly on the emotions and the atmosphere. And I think the central performances were really good. It's one of my most favourite South Korean films I watched recently. I saw The Shape of Water, like I mentioned before. I won't really get too much into that. I thought it was good, not great. I saw Air Doll, which is a Japanese film by Koreeda, who is a very, very prominent director in Japan. This actually stars a South Korean actress, Bae Doona, who I really, really love. She's probably most well known in the West for being Cloud Atlas and for working with the Wachowskis. But I really loved Air Doll. It's about this kind of sex doll who comes to life, and she then kind of wanders through Tokyo. I think it's set in Tokyo, kind of discovering herself and discovering about people and trying to find, what her function is. She has a heart, but she doesn't really know how to love or what to love or who to love or how anything works. It's all about loneliness and companionship, and it's really very touching and has some great dialogue in there, and the score is amazing. I actually think you might have liked my review I did on Letterboxd, so you probably all know this, but I wrote a nice review on there if you want to check that out. And I just thought this was one of the best Japanese films I've seen in a while.
Remind me again, I need to get that name.
It's Air Doll.
Oh, okay. I'm going to put it in my list to watch
It's really good, and it has this kind of sort of feeling a lot of Japanese films are able to do. Japanese filmmakers are really good at kind of balancing kind of wonder and amazement, and this hypnotic sort of beauty alongside sadness and kind of more depressing themes. So yeah, it's very subdued in that respect. I just thought it was so good. I really, really loved it, and the score was terrific. I saw Joint Security Area, which is a film by Park Chan-wook, who is best known as the director of Old Boy, The Handmaiden. This film he actually directed in 2000. I think I'm going from memory here, but I read that the studio said, if you direct this film, you can do whatever you want after this. So he did this film for them, and then afterwards went on to do his Vengeance trilogy, for which he's now famous for. But Joint Security Area, that's about the kind of border patrols at the north and south border in Korea. It's a very, very good film. I rewatched Smashed with Aaron Paul and Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Oh yeah, my girl.
Almost messed up her name. I just call her Mew. But I've watched this before, and I've said how much I loved it. I really love Smashed. I watched Brick. I don't know if you've seen Brick. I think you might have mentioned Brick to me before.
Oh no, it's just one of the many. Well, it's what is the major film? I think was it from Ryan Johnson before he did like Looper.
Ryan Johnson.
I still haven't seen it yet because I know loads of people talk about it, like, you know, within like the film circles that I know of.
It's a very interesting film. I felt it dragged on a bit come the end, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt's really good in it, and it had like kind of an interesting mash of genres. It's like a noir, but in a school setting, with a student rather than a detective. And in that respect, it felt very new and very fresh and very interesting. I watched Jupiter Ascending. I don't know if you saw that when it came out.
Oh, yes.
I watched this only for Bayduna, who is in it for about 5 minutes. But, you know, everyone knows about it by now. Everyone's heard about it by now. It's by no means amazing. I thought the action scenes were really good. But some of the characters and the plot is just not quite there.
Oh, wait. Before you move on, there's two things that I need to ask you about. Firstly, what did you think of Eddie Redmayne? Because when I saw this film, there is one particular moment where, you know, he does a lot of weird, like, you know, quiet talking. And then there's this one moment specifically where he has this one outburst where it's just so bizarre and over the top. Me and my sister were laughing our guts out because the performance was so bizarre and over the top. And for me, I'd seen, like, you know, is it him in The Theory of Everything, and then going into this, and I was just like, wow, what happened? I guess it's just the direction and material was given, but still, that was just wow.
I'd heard a lot about his performance and how awful it was and cringe and all that. And, you know, I didn't think it was that bad. It was amusing when he would suddenly go quiet, you know, an outburst. There's a scene like that in Mr. Robot, actually, the first season, which is really funny. But I didn't think it was as bad as everyone made it out to be. I mean, he's not really in the film that much. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm maybe a bit on the outside on that, but I can definitely see why people were kind of laughing at it and mocking it. But I didn't think it was unwatchable.
Nah, that's fair. I mean, I wouldn't say, like, you know, it's the worst thing ever. I just thought it was quite funny. And for me, like, my favorite element of the film, besides the action, was the music. Like, when I saw that film, I was like, this music sounds familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And I found out it was my man, Michael Giacchino. He has such a distinctive sound. And if you put that music sort of against, like, certain sequences in maybe Speed Racer and The Incredibles, you notice those sort of similarities straight away. And I'm like, that was my favorite thing coming out of the film. I'm like, Jupiter Ascending was just like almost nothing film, but that music was what really elevated it for me. So I'm like, yeah, baby.
Nice.
All right, yeah, you can continue now.
But yeah, the music was really good. I also saw Thor Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, I did want to know about your thoughts about that because I saw that you gave it like a 3, so I was like, ooh, I had to pick your brain about that just a tiny bit.
I will say I liked it. I thought it was a good film. I did think it was ruined a little bit when it couldn't really have a serious moment too much. I know Taika kind of set out to really kind of make a comedy, and I would definitely describe it more as a comedy in areas. And there's that odd, I don't know, his character, the one that Taika voiced, you know, that rock guy.
Oh yeah, Korg, everyone's new favorite MCU character. Everyone loves Korg, and if you don't love Korg, then you're like some sort of like, you know.
What? Is this? Are you joking? Is he literally like a fan favorite?
Mate, like, I don't. There's a minor handful of people that I've not only talked to in person, but people on the internet. Once Korg came out, everybody loved Korg. The memes were everywhere. The pictures were everywhere on my Instagram feed. Everyone loved Korg, and if you said you didn't like Korg, you were shut down so quickly and buried in the depths of the internet comment section where no one would ever find you.
I kind of like the concept of the character. You know, Taika with his New Zealand accent really kind of brings this sort of personality to it. But I don't know why. Maybe I was just the copy I had, but it sounded like he had recorded his lines separate to everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I had headphones on when I was watching it, and the sound mixing was a bit off there, I thought. But also there was the scene at the end of the film where there's a really serious moment. I won't explain
I know
too much
exactly what you'll mean.
To avoid spoilers. But then he comes in with this one-liner, and then another one-liner, and it ruins the moment. It ruined it for me anyway. It just completely took all seriousness out of it and just made light of what could have been a very dramatic and intense and poignant and very memorable scene, not only in Thor but also in the whole Marvel franchise going forward. But yeah, I felt there were moments where it was just a bit unnecessary to input some comedy there. I wish they would have let things linger a bit more. So yeah, those are my general thoughts. I thought it was a good film. I liked it. It had some great action, and I would not say it's a bad film, but it did have some bad choices.
Thank you. You don't know what it's been like to be on a lonely island with a handful of other people saying that you liked the film, but you didn't think it was like this amazing film. Because out of all the films that came out last year, besides Logan, everybody went on about how great Thor Ragnarok was. Thor Ragnarok is the best MCU film so far. Thor Ragnarok is the best film in the Thor series so far. It's the best humor I've ever seen in a comic book film. Korg is amazing. The humor's amazing. Oh, what are you talking about? Like, the film is like doesn't have enough serious moments. It's so funny. And the serious moments in the film, oh yeah, they're there. Do you not see, like, when that character dies or this thing happens and blah blah blah, and you're just like, I saw that, but we're not watching the same film. Now don't get me wrong, like I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok for what it was. It had some fun moments in there for sure, but I don't know if it was just the timing or the nature of the humor, but it didn't click with me. Some of the jokes were good, but some of it I could see where it was coming. With certain sets of physical humor or just a setup for certain jokes, I saw it playing out about maybe 60 to 70% of the time. Some of the action sequences are some of my favorites in the MCU so far. There's one sequence where Thor is using his powers, and I swear that they're borrowing from Mortal Kombat. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He looked just like bloody Raiden from Mortal Kombat. And yeah, some of the visuals are really good. I like what they did with some of the characters. Thor and Loki still have their interesting back and forth. I like the concept of Hela, and the introduction was good, but I just feel like as an overall villain, she didn't do anything of note for me.
Yeah.
She had a good introduction, and some of the stuff she did on Asgard was good, but the problem was that since the film had such a heavy focus on Sakaar, and was it all the stuff going on with Thor and Hulk over there, whenever the film sort of switched back to Asgard, she felt like an afterthought in the film. I'm just like, what? No, there's got to be a better balance than this. No. And Korg, I like the guy, but I don't love the guy like everybody else does, so it pisses me off. I'm not like I'm supposed to like it's like the fans on the internet are like Jehovah's Witness, and they're trying to convert me to like is it bloody the way of Korg, and I can't. So yeah, and yes, that moment, like you, I expected humor in the film, but I didn't expect the film to be a full-on comedy, and some of the serious moments they had in there just didn't have the same sort of resonance that they had in the previous Thor films. Even the second film with, spoiler for Thor, The Dark World, but, when Frigga dies, is it Rene Russo's character, that was one of the best send-off deaths I've ever seen in any Marvel film. Like, her funeral sequence was wonderful, and probably the best part of bloody Thor, The Dark World. Another character, has a passing in this film, but it doesn't have that same dramatic weight at all. And that other scene you mentioned beforehand with that joke, literally was just the icing on the pain cake for me. I was just like, why you gotta do that? This was a really wonderful moment, like, from a dramatic standpoint, and it just took the wind out of the sails. I'm like, well, you just done did it, didn't you?
It wasn't even that funny either. That's the thing. It wasn't that good of a joke.
You should have seen it. Everybody in the cinema, when I saw it, they were laughing their heads off. They were like, oh, like, was it in the first line, and then the second line, like, I'm just like, you just saw what happened, right? And everyone is still laughing. It's like, oh my god, Corgi did it again. And I'm like, no, damn it,
Corgi. The film
Corgi.
is certainly appealing to a lot of people then, but yeah, for me and you, it seems it was just a bit skewed, a bit awkward. Yeah. And I also felt, I don't know if you felt this, in some scenes, Anthony Hopkins, he felt like he was phoning it in a bit.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's just that one scene, he's like, I love you, my sons. And then he just walks off, and I didn't feel any emotion. I love you, my sons. I'm gone.
Yeah.
It just felt very kind of odd. I can't really explain it.
No, I understand.
He felt so hurried. Like, you need to get this out and get going. Yeah, it was odd.
Yeah, and just one other thing. For me, you know me, I love the first Thor film, but regardless of its issues and how I wish the film had taken place over longer than a weekend, I feel like what Kenneth Branagh did with the first film, he was able to create this. The characterization of the characters just felt so solid and right and more Shakespearean. I understand that Thor has changed since he started hanging around with the Avengers. And, his personality's changed, but the way they sort of duded him up and, just made him, like, so, I don't know, common and human in a way, and took away some of those more Shakespearean, like, I don't know, otherworldly, mystical elements of his character away, and just made everything in service of, like, just well-timed jokes and stuff like that. As a transition of the character from point A to point B, I'm sort of disappointed with where he's ended up. Whereas certain other characters, like, Iron Man, Captain America, and a few of these other people are just, progress in a really, logical and cool way. So, yeah. I mean, personal nitpick, but yeah, I thought I'd bring it up.
No, that's fair. I will say also one last thing. I really, really loved Jeff Goldblum in the movie, and he was in it a lot more than I thought he would be. And, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Jeff Goldblum's always a good time.
Yeah, like, there's that one point where, I think you know what it is, where he just doesn't say anything for a few seconds.
Whenabouts in the film does this take place?
So when Thor goes to Sakaar for the first time, and, he meets the Grandmaster, and then there's that one scene where him and Loki and the Grandmaster are there, and it's just this awkward silence for a few seconds, and it's just the most awkward point, and then it's like he forgets what he's saying, and then he just goes back into another point of the conversation later on. It's just the most bizarre moment, but it's so funny.
I really liked that scene, and I thought that was one of the better comedy moments in the film, where Thor's rolling in on this chair, and there's like that song from Charlie and Chocolate Factory, was it Pure Imagination, is just kind of in the background a bit, and then he rolls up, and then Loki's just off to the side having this wild time, and Thor does like a double take. I thought that was really good. There was some moments in that film which were really funny and did work. So, yeah, that's why I think it wasn't terrible, but we're definitely on the same page.
Oh, thank you. I feel so much better now. I can die happy.
Alright. I've just got 2 final films to mention.
Okay.
The first is a short film, also from another from South Korea called Moonyoung. And this stars Kim Tae-ri, who was recently in The Handmaiden, and this is one of her earliest performances, and she's really, really good in it. And lastly, I saw Molly's Game, which you chatted about previously.
Oh yeah, what do you think?
For me, I liked it. I thought it was well made, but it just didn't grip me as much as I thought it would.
That's fair. For me, I thought that Jessica Chastain's performance was really good in the film. She's for me, she's one of those actresses that never disappoint. Idris Elba was good in the film, and for me, the story was interesting, but it was a certain switch up, like towards like I think maybe the middle of the film where something happens to her of significance where you're just like, that's when I got on board with actually giving a crap about her character, because I found her like not very likable, but I thought Chastain's performance was good. And oh yeah, what do you think of Michael Cera? Like, I thought it was quite good.
Yeah, he's good in that. I've always kind of rated Michael Cera, even in his comedic roles. I mean, there's a film he's in with Portia Doubleday, who is in Mr. Robot, called Youth in Revolt. And
oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch that for years.
I really liked that film, and he has some great lines in there, and his delivery is great. And if you know about the film, he plays a sort of dual kind of character.
Yeah, I remember
one of
the
him
trailer.
is kind of this like geeky kind of guy, and the other one's this like hard and badass kind of character, and he does that so well. And when you watch it, we've got to chat about it, because there's this one scene I've gone back and watched it like over 20 times. I find it funny every time. And Rooney Mara's in there for a little bit as well. It's a good film. It's one of my favourite comedy films probably. But yeah, I always rate Michael Cera, and he was good in Molly's Game. He wasn't in it as much as I thought he would be though.
Yeah.
But for Molly's Game, I did think it was really well made. It's just, you really need to be in the mood for that sort of film. And I think maybe I probably watched it at the wrong moment. I watched it just before, well, when it finished, I had to go and get ready for work and kind of leave. So it probably wasn't the best kind of moment to watch it. But yeah, I did think it was a good film.
Nice.
So yeah, is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything else you need to discuss?
Briefly, I just wanted to bring mention to some of the films I'm looking forward to in 2018. I'm just gonna attempt to bring up my list now, but I'm just gonna go through like some of the films I'm most excited for. So number 11 would be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So this is the animated Spider-Man film coming from Sony Animation. They've been a little questionable with their material in the past, but this is their first animated Spider-Man film. And the reason I'm interested in it is because that teaser trailer they released in December looked really good, and it's the first film to feature Miles Morales, the Black Spider-Man, introduced in, I think, was it a few years ago? I can't remember which year it was, but yeah, I'm interested in that. And obviously, since this is not necessarily just a film about him, but like possible other Spider-Man based characters, it'll be interesting if they show like characters like Spider-Gwen in addition to Peter Parker, and like maybe, I doubt they'll show like characters like Ben Reilly, but it'd be cool if they show some of these other Spider-Man characters. But I just want to see what they're going to do with Miles Morales, because he's a fan favorite now. So to see him getting the film treatment, even if it's in an animated form, I'm hyped for. Mortal Engines, I know not too much about this film, but I am very, very curious from that teaser trailer. It seems insane, but it's just like, yo man, it's Peter Jackson, so I gotta see what's going on.
Well, it's not Peter Jackson though.
Is it not?
No, he's not the director.
All right, so he's involved, right?
Well, he's the producer. The director, I think, this is his debut, and I think kind of PJ maybe is sort of taking on a kind of mentor position.
All right, so this is sort of like what he did with 9 then.
Was he involved in 9?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was the producer on that film as well.
Do you mean 9 or District 9?
No, 9.
Well, he was the producer for District 9.
Maybe I'm thinking District 9. 1 second, I'm gonna go look this up. Yeah,
9 is that animated film, isn't it?
Yeah.
But this is probably a bit like a District 9 kind of position, where he's the producer and there's a new director. It's their directorial debut, but he has worked very closely with Peter Jackson. No,
yeah, you're right. Like I was thinking of Tim Burton for like is it 9, and like Peter Jackson for Mr. Chappie Man, like oh my gosh, what is his name? Like Neil Blomkamp. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The man's name, the director of Mortal Engines, is Christian Rivers. I was right. He did visual effects and storyboard art for Peter Jackson. So this is his first position as a director, and I think probably Peter Jackson has definitely given him some sort of mentorship, or he's definitely there as a person that he can go to. So I wouldn't really say PJ's not involved at all, but yeah, I wouldn't really call it a Peter Jackson film at the same time.
Okay.
Definitely, it's interesting though. I'm excited to see it as well.
The next film up is The Predator. Like, I want this film to be good so badly. Predator from like what's it? I think it's 1986 or 87. I think it's 87 actually. It's one of my favorite films ever. I can watch that film for the rest of my life and never be bored. Has some of the best action, violence, and quotable lines, and one of the coolest aliens in any film ever. And since then, they've yet to recapture that magic. Predator 2 was interesting, but not as good. And Predators from 2010, again interesting and has some really cool stuff, especially that samurai sequence with that one Asian dude in the grass. That was beautiful. But otherwise, like, still just not enough. So I'm hoping with the return of Shane Black to the franchise, not only as someone that acted in it, but also is writing and directing. I hope he can bring some of the flair that he did with The Nice Guys and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and can implement it into this film, because it needs a win. I need this film to be good. Mission Impossible 6 is out, and I think they just released a new name for it. I think it's called Fallout. I like the Mission Impossible films, 4 and 5 especially. I like the fact that you've got the return of Rebecca Ferguson, and I think Michelle Monaghan has come back to this as well. And let's see what the deal is with Henry Cavill and his moustache, because obviously that's what caused that Justice League controversy last year. Sicario 2, Soldado, I am very curious about. Something tells me it'll just be, a disappointment in some kind of way, but it is focusing on my favorite aspect of like the last film. Don't get me wrong, I really did enjoy Emily Blunt's, story in the film, but Benicio del Toro, man. Shut up. When Benicio del Toro literally is just on screen and he's just using his command and presence just to be some crazy ass, evil, intimidating kind of presence, just like, mate, I'm in 100%. Give me that juice. So yeah, Denis Villeneuve, I think, is involved in a producing role, but it's a different director, so I'm a little worried, but I'm still curious. Then there's Ready Player One. This film could just be okay or a bloody mess, but I'm in. I'm just in. It looks like it's an interesting concept. The amount of references, especially in that second trailer, was insanity. And the choice of Van Halen, amazing. I'm in so deep. I jumped into that ocean. And it comes out on my birthday, so that's all right.
Yeah, there you go.
And now in my top 5, Annihilation, is Alex Garland. He made Ex Machina, one of my all-time favorite films. I'm in.
You're in again.
The trailer was really fascinating and interesting, and it's just an interesting concept. I want to know what's going on in that weird, trippy looking forest. And it's got Natalie Portman, yay! So good times.
And he's such a good screenwriter as well, Alex Garland. I mean,
yeah,
he did a great job directing Ex Machina, and I think he's gonna kind of be sort of part of the new generation of elites. I think he has a lot of potential ahead of him. But as a screenwriter, I think he is actually a novelist as well. I think he has written books. I think he may have actually wrote the book The Beach.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, yeah, from a storytelling and, plots perspective, I'm really excited for that as well. Even though this is an adaptation of a different book, I'm sure he'll do it justice or put his own unique spin on it.
Yeah. Oh. Next up is Isle of Dogs. As soon as I saw the trailer for this, I'm like, mate, this looks like, the same style that was in, Fantastic Mr. Fox. And then I saw Wes Anderson's name, and I'm like, yep, saw it, I'm in.
You're in for a lot.
There's just, again, the way in which dialogue and the way in which he frames, certain scenes and the timing of some of the jokes and stuff. It just felt like him, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch this film. It's a really interesting concept with how these dogs have a flu, so they get banished to an island, but then some boy goes looking for his dog, and there's all this other stuff going on with the government and other people. It looks insane, and I'm down, and the voice cast is insanity. So many of his freaking collaborators and some of the additional people in there. I'm so in.
You're in and you're down.
Yeah. next up, Black Panther. I know it's another MCU film, but this is the first time we get to see Black Panther in live action, and he left such a major impression on me and Civil War, and the trailer so far have been pretty good. It's directed by Ryan Coogler, who did Fruitvale Station and Creed, two really good films. I'm interested to see how much of his directing style will be implemented into this film, how much it might change certain things up for the MCU, or if it will just work in tandem with the MCU formula. So far, it looks like very different, but also kind of familiar to what we've seen in the MCU beforehand. But I love Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Andy Serkis, Angela Bassett, Forrest Whitaker, Lupita Nyong'o. Like, the list goes on. So I'm down. If we're done with the statement at this point, but I might say it another 2 times. Incredibles 2. I've been waiting 14 years for this. 14 years. And even though I didn't see the film until I think, was it like 2008 or 9?
How have you been waiting 14 years then?
That's not the point. If I was 4, it came out in 2004, so I still count as one of the people. It doesn't matter. Anyway,
you're living a false life.
Oh man, just add another 4 years to my life. It's fine. They've only released recent plot details and character details, but I don't care. I'm literally just watch probably one trailer, and then I'll just say, yeah, that's it. But I've been waiting for a sequel to this film. It's a sequel in the sense that it's not the way I would have progressed the story personally, but Brad Bird's back. The whole team's back, and I'm curious to see what these characters would look like with today's CGI, because even though the film looked really good for 2004, I'd like to see what they look like with, proper Pixar now quality, because their films recently have just been insane. If you look at Coco and like Inside Dory, not Inside Dory, gosh, Inside Out, Inside Out and Finding Dory, they are some of the cleanest looking Pixar films they've ever put to film ever. And obviously Avengers Infinity War. It's just, I've been waiting all my life for this moment, since the end of bloody Avengers, when you got Thanos teased back in 2012. It's a culmination of 10 years of sitting in that bloody cinema waiting for the end of days, I guess, event for the MCU, and it could fail, and I'm ready for disappointment. But at the same time, when I saw that teaser trailer, the music, the use of the Avengers theme from Alan Silvestri, and seeing all these different characters sort of interactive for the first time, my mind is just melting with just hype. This is like literally what I saw as a kid when I watched cartoons with some of these characters crossing over and reading about them in comics. This is what I've been waiting for all my life, and I'm so ready.
You're in.
Yeah, is it? Yeah. All right, your time. It's your time.
No, man, I already covered mine last episode.
All right. Did you want to add anything else, or you all right?
Well, I'm curious actually to get your thoughts on the trailer for Battle Angel, as somebody unfamiliar with the actual manga and the story.
Yeah, because I was thinking about reading it before the film came out. Because for me, I'm one of the sort of guys that can separate is it source material to the adaptation. Though depending on how the adaptation happens, it can be a bit of a half and half sort of situation. But anyway, as someone who knows of the source material but never read it, I was very interested. Let's put it that way. I am generally interested in the setting, the world, how this character is created, and how she interacts with all these other sort of cyborg-based characters. I think the main thing for me was, besides the choice of certain actors in the film, like Christoph Waltz, Mahershala Ali, and I think there was one other person whose name I'm forgetting right now. What's the name of that female lady? Is it,
Jennifer Connelly?
Yes, gosh, I lost her name. I was like, yeah, she's the woman in the Rocketeer. Yeah, is the main character. She has those eyes. Everyone was going on about it before the film came out, and before the trailer. No, after the trailer came out, but before I saw it, and I'm like, they look a little weird, but maybe they look a little different in action. I'm like, my God, they're just there, aren't they? And obviously, some people talking about again about the whole whitewashing situation, or how this is just a weird way to appease original fans of the source material. But then some people, the source material, say it doesn't look that similar either, so it's a big old hullabaloo. I think for me, I'll just get used to it once the film is like, in motion. But I'm more than interested. I'm very curious, and since this is another film from Robert Rodriguez, I'm curious to see if this falls on the good or bad end of the spectrum of his directing. Yeah.
I see. Well, I wrote a blog post on this, so I'm probably going to be repeating a lot what's on there. But for me, I've been waiting for this film for years and years and years. I'm a massive fan of the manga. It's one of my favorites. I actually own it twice.
Ooh.
And it's had a very kind of tumultuous production. And I think James Cameron actually bought the rights in the late 90s. It's been that long. And I've read a lot about it recently, and it was kind of disappointing to me because the way that Robert Rodriguez came to direct the film was that he basically just asked James Cameron. He said, "So what's going on with Battle Angel? When are you going to make that?" And James Cameron said to him, "Oh, I don't think I'll ever make that. I want to do more Avatar films." And it was just really disappointing to hear that from James Cameron because Battle Angel was supposed to be his passion project. He was going to do it way before Avatar, but the technology wasn't there for what he wanted to do, and Avatar was supposed to be a stepping stone for Battle Angel to happen. But Robert Rodriguez says that when Avatar became the most successful film of all time, James Cameron said he wants to do more Avatars. And I just think that's such a shame because he's such a good director. He's more than a few more Avatar films. I really wish he'd kind of diversify, his future projects a bit. But I guess he wants more money to fund his undersea discoveries and stuff like that. But I really would have preferred James Cameron to be the director. But at least he's involved as a producer and screenwriter. And I'm not very familiar with Robert Rodriguez, but I think he could probably pull it off. For me, I think the film has the look. It looks like Battle Angel to me, and the characters have a very good likeness to their characters on the page. Obviously, Alita's eyes have been a big talking point. I like the eyes. I think they make sense. I mean, she's a cyborg. Her eyes aren't real. The only real thing about her is her brain, pretty much. So I don't see why she can't have big eyes. I mean, Ed Skrein's character, Zapan, is just a head on a frame. So, I mean, there's a lot more strange things going on in that film than big eyes, is all I'm saying. But yeah, I really like that they've got the characters very close to their, manga counterparts. And I just hope so much that it's going to be good. But I've read some interviews with Rodriguez, and he kind of muddles up information sometimes. Obviously, I can kind of pick this out because I'm familiar with the material. And on one hand, I can kind of see, he's been working on this for a long time. There's a lot of different aspects. Of course, he's going to get a bit, muddled sometimes. I mean, parents get their children's name wrong sometimes. But at the same time, these are key characters. I would have thought he would have been more familiar with the material. And I'm also interested to see whether they're actually going to include Destinova, who is like the main antagonist of the series. He doesn't really come into the story until halfway through the manga.
Yeah.
But he has been mentioned by Rodriguez in an interview. And that was one of the muddled names. I'm not sure if he really meant to mention Nova or not. So he's not in the cast list. So I'm just interested to see, when the next trailer comes out, if he's gonna be in there at all. And when James Cameron was first devising the film, he said it would adapt the first 4 books, and in those there are about, I would say, 3 main arcs, which is an awful lot for one film. I can kind of see it being able to fit in the first 2. But the third and fourth books are very kind of independent from the rest of the arcs. They're their own thing, and it's a very specific time in the story, which it focuses more on Alita and her inner journey as a person. It might be a bit much to try and fit that in the film as well, but I can kind of see how it would work if they kind of tag it on at the end. And one last thing I want to note is that also one thing I kind of got from Rodriguez as I was reading him, discuss the film, is that they're taking material from the anime OVA, which I'm a bit ambivalent about. On one hand, I can kind of see how it might be a bit more accessible to them, but at the same time, Yukito Kishiro, who's the author of the manga, was not involved in the anime at all. So,
right, okay.
It's just a bit, if you're a fan of Battle Angel, it's the manga material which you want. And Jennifer Connelly in the film, she is playing a character from the anime version. Her character is not in the manga. And, I'm going a bit elitist on this. I want, kind of just all manga material. But, elitist. You can't always have that, and I accept that. I mean, there are original things in The Lord of the Rings, even. But Jennifer Connelly's character is not even that great of a character in the anime. And I just hope they don't mess it up. I really, really want it to be successful because I want there to be more, because the story is so good. And not only does it start so strongly, with each new arc, it introduces so many more interesting and unique and just very fun elements which could be built upon by each sequel. It really could be a very, very strong trilogy, which is what James Cameron said he wanted to do. But now he's not kind of spearheading this film, he's not at the forefront of it. I'm kind of dubious about the direction they're going to go. Again, reading from what Rodriguez has said, it looks like they're approaching this from a standalone point. If it's successful, I hope they make more, but I just really hope it's good, because I have a lot of investment in this film.
Well, I am more than curious to see if they can pull it off, because obviously, even as someone that hasn't read the source material, I can see that I think they're counting on this film being successful and then launching a series. And obviously, from what you told me, what little I've researched online, it seems like there is a lot more material that they can, draw from for future films if they decide to go on, a trilogy or possibly even more than that. Because as far as I'm aware, isn't there was it a sequel manga that's still happening right now or something ongoing?
Yeah, well, there's the original manga, which is 9 volumes, and the author was actually forced to end it early because he became ill. I think he may have had cancer, actually, or some sort of disease. I'm not saying that with fact. That's just what I've read somewhere.
Yeah.
But he was ill. He was very ill, so he had to kind of end the manga quickly and kind of resolve it. But then he recovered, and he was able to come back with a sequel which directly continues from the manga. It actually disregards the last few chapters and picks up from an earlier point very seamlessly, and that goes on for a long time. That's more kind of set in space and kind of more sci-fi to it, while the first original manga is more cyberpunk. And then there's another sequel that's going on right now, so there's a lot of material. I think among fans, the original series is definitely seen as the strongest piece, and for me it's also my favourite. But there's definitely enough material there to make at least a couple of films, and especially since the main antagonist doesn't come in till halfway through, they could really do a lot with that. So yeah, here's hoping.
Sweet.
Alright, man, let's end it there. You can do the conclusion.
Oh, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to another episode of Impressions in Motion. I hope you found this episode enjoyable, informative somewhat, and, just good listening for your ears. If you would like to check us out on iTunes, please be sure to do so. We are also lurking about on SoundCloud and also on Twitter, where we are at Impressions in Motion.
Wait, we're on Twitter now?
Oh, mate, we've been on Twitter for ages.
I didn't even know we were on Twitter.
Oh yeah, crap, that's right. When I think it was at the end of December, I think it was around December, I set up the Twitter account, but that was also the same time I was trying to set us up on iTunes, so it sort of happened within the same week.
We're also on YouTube, don't forget.
Oh yeah, of course we're on YouTube as well. Yeah, mate. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well as iTunes.
We're not on Twitter. You're on Twitter.
Oh yeah, but then the Impressions and Motion podcast is on iTunes. We have an account.
That's you on Twitter.
Well, yeah, okay, fine. I'm on Twitter and actually 3 different places now. Haha.
Oh,
So yeah,
punk.
I run the Impressions in Motion Twitter account.
So the Impressions in Motion Twitter account has been hijacked by this punk.
If you want the password, I can give it to you. It's fine.
Nah, that's cool. I don't really like Twitter. I really
See,
fell
then
out
there's
of
no
love with
problem
Twitter.
there.
You can sort that out.
Yay, all the power. Yeah. Anyway, there is never a professional way for me to do this. I'm gonna have to write out a script. Point is, ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to check us out on all forms of social media and wherever we stream, because we're great, but we also require
We
your
don't
help.
stream.
Well, whatever, like, you know what I mean. Wherever you can find Impressions in Motion.
Please
on the
check
internet.
us out where we're available.
Yeah, see what that guy said.
You have to be careful with terminology these days.
Yeah, man, I know I'm just gonna get sniped one day. Jeez. Grammar police come and get me. Terminology police might take me down. Okay, yeah. That's gonna bring another episode of Precious Motion to an end. Thank you for listening, and from me, the Hypersonic 55, also known as Kurt, I'm running away. So bye. Chris, say bye on it.
Bye.
We'll see you later.